Hey guys, this is the Moog Source from 1981. I'm Vulture Culture. I love vintage synthesizers. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to the channel. That way you can check out these live streams that we do every Wednesday at 9 p.m. This is a very special synthesizer because I believe it is the last affordable way to get a true vintage Minimoog sound in a synth. So this is the second to last synthesizer Moog made in the 80s before the company went bankrupt. And you can still get these guys for easily less than half of a Minimoog reissue Model D that's coming out brand new, and easily a fifth the cost of a vintage Minimoog. And at first glance, you might go, well, wait, this isn't a Minimoog at all. This doesn't look anything like a Minimoog with these orange and teal buttons and everything. But inside, it's actually basically the same synth. There are a couple of differences. We'll get to that. But essentially, it is a Minimoog in all sense of the character. And I did a lot of research on this guy. And it seems like all the vintage synth aficionados say that aside from the real original Minimoog, which usually goes for about $10,000, this is as close as you can get. And I think hearing the bass here, you guys tell me what you think, but I think it is pretty convincing. So I can't compare it directly to a Minimoog. I will never have that kind of money. But the thing is that it sounds great. And when you hear them shot out back to back with Minimoogs, they sound awesome. So why is this thing so inexpensive then? Inexpensive in quote, because all vintage Moogs are very expensive. I was able to get this one from someone who effectively, I believe it was their father's or something like that, and they passed away and they were like, hey, we were going through the closet and we found this thing. And so I was able to get it actually for a very good price for what it is. They're still very expensive for mono synths, but if you wanted to go out and get one of these, you could probably get one for something less than $2,500, which to get a vintage Minimoog for that price is insane. But the obvious reason as to why this thing doesn't cost $10K is because it is a membrane button synthesizer. So it's the only synth that Moog ever made like this. And it's pretty easy to edit. So for instance, right now I've kind of got this fade in sort of sound, but all I have to do is hit attack and then bring this knob down, and now it'll hit. We have more of a pluck type sound. And so it's not super complicated. I like to call this one membrane button per function. So it's really not that bad. The thing that drives me crazy with membrane and like DX7 style interfaces is when you have to enter parameter numbers and then enter the value or something like that. That gets insane. But, you know, if you just want to tighten up the decay here, it's really not that bad because it's all laid out super simply. And it is a pretty simple synth in architecture. So I'm going to just catch up on chat real quick. Yeah, and they are really easy to fix compared to a troublesome potentiometer. So yeah, that's the thing too, is Moog did put out a bunch of lower cost options in the early 80s, like the Rogue, the Prodigy, the I think the Concert Mate, a few others, but they're famous for having problems, and these things are built like a tank. This was meant to replace the Minimoog. So at the time, Moog had been selling Minimoogs for about a decade and thought it was time to update it. And so this was the first Moog that had programmability. So the first Moog with presets, and the second to last Moog, the memory Moog, being the last one that they ever made. And so it also represents a unique part of history. We've got a sequencer here. We've got a lot going on that wasn't in the original Minimoog as well. And it's really not that difficult to program. The only thing is, of course, vintage synth snobs always look down on synths that don't have knobs. And that's a shame because I love the look of this synth. Like, have you ever seen a more 80s paint job? I think it looks incredible. I had a Moog Rogue that I couldn't get running for about 10 years, and you regret letting it go. Damn, Michael, that is tough. But yes, this synth sounds really good. Why don't we go through some of the presets real quick? We only have 16, so it's a little bit easier, and then we'll go through the actual programming of the thing. We've got an octave switch over here, so I can go from probably 32 feet to 16. So we'll just pick preset 1, and this is a weird one to start on. So one of the things that it does look like a speak and spell, it is immediately you can hear that famous Moog sound. And so if we wanted to hear the same thing, but just with a little bit more emphasis, you just press the button. You don't really feel a satisfying click. You just sort of have to trust that it worked, and then you can crank it. So why don't we increase the resonance? It has that dirty thing, and it is a 24 decibel per octave 4-pole ladder filter. So what made Moog synths have a different sound than everything else is this ladder filter. And what happens is that as you increase resonance, you lose bass. So it almost starts to sound more like a bandpass filter in a way. So that's how that sounded. If I remove all of the resonance, now you can hear a lot more bass. Right, pretty meaty. So versus and it is very dirty and very analog. It's extremely smooth. And we always talk about MIDI and NRPM, I believe is how it's said. I don't actually know what is going on with the digital control in this synth because everything feels really smooth. When you adjust a parameter, you can do it in real time. So if I increase the resonance and change the cutoff here, it feels incredibly smooth on this synthesizer. So I'm a big fan of other synths that have a layout like this, like the Kawai K3, but this rotary knob is unique in that it feels incredible. It's like got a weight to it, and it keeps going. Like you kind of spin it, and it keeps going. And it's very smooth. You don't hear any sort of like MIDI issues like we did on the DW8000, right? So depending on what it was, you would get sort of a little bit of that. You could hear the MIDI resolution not being so good. So yes. How's it going, PC? Welcome to the stream, my friend. Let's go ahead and check out program 2. Really like this one. In the background, I've just got a little bit of Valhalla delay down 20 decibels just to help fill out the sound a bit. And it really sounds beautiful when you play fast lines with this little bit of attack on it. Just really magical. And I kind of get the thing why people love Moog so much, because one thing I can say about this instrument with the little time that I've had with it is it immediately, like, everything just works, right? There's no like part of it where you go, oh, it's a little, I wish it did this. Moving on to the next patch. We do have triangle waves in the synthesizer, just like the original. Wow, it just sounds really great. Super evocative right off the bat. And so one of the biggest differences between this synth and a Minimoog is a Minimoog has 3 voltage controlled oscillators per voice, but there's only one voice because it's monophonic. And on this synth, we only have 2. The reason is because that third oscillator is just a dedicated LFO, which is how a lot of times people did it with the Minimoog, is they noticed that most of the time people use 2 oscillators and use the third one as an LFO. So they just made it that way. But we do have noise, so we could add some. Just really clear, clean sound. I believe those were both the triangle waves. You hear a little bit of interesting modulation in there. I don't know if that's from the sync. You can sync the oscillators. We get these just really immediately useful leads and bass type sounds. You can hear that noise is in there. Definitely a little bit. If I turn sync off, I wonder if that'll... I definitely hear a little bit of intermodular distortion in there. Could be something in my signal chain, but I believe it's probably just the nature of these harmonics hitting the filter. Sounds super beautiful. Moving right along to patch 5. So we have this like nice resonanced bass type sound. So if you want to get your like... you know, get a little funky in there. Useful. We could crank the resonance on this one. The resonance is about 50% of the way. You can really hear how the filter is alive with that sort of voltage controlled feeling where it's not very static. You can hear it kind of wander a bit, a little bit of noise on the filter. You also have filter mod. Maybe that's what I'm hearing. So if I turn that off, we'll see if that changes it. We can go ahead and turn it on here and see if we can adjust that. Maybe change the rate. Well, we'll have to figure that out. So what do you guys think so far? Does it sound like a real Minimoog? That's up for you guys in the live chat as well as in the comments when this video is up later to tell me. Very, again, kind of these noisy... just immediately familiar sorts of tones. And I have to say, I never planned on getting a Moog. I kind of always felt like, you know what, that's for a different type of collector. I've always been into underdog synths, and Moog basically never put out an underdog synth over the years because everything they did was sort of gold. But this to me was very captivating as basically the best they could do at the time. Just incredible, but at the same time, sort of history has sort of forgotten about the Source. It is no longer that famous thing. So here's another example, to me anyways, of a sound that is immediately useful and demonstrates the quickness of these envelopes. So you can get these really tight. And, you know, when we did the stream on the JX3P, I had a lot of people talk about the speed of the envelopes. And to me, I'm like, a lot of times that sort of thing doesn't matter. Now, I don't know if we turned that synth on and we like experimented what we would get, but there is something though about, you can hear the synth is drifting out of tune there. There is something about the way these analog envelopes sound, how fast they are. It's almost made me rethink it a bit. Just very, very snappy to where you're almost not hearing anything. You know, get these crazy sounds. It sounds like any other Moog, not a diss against it, just how Moogs sound. Not much variation between any of them. Moogs have great tone and cut through a mix like no other, though. I've always been surprised how little work my sub 37 needs in a mix. Yeah, that's another thing. If we're just talking about like raw oscillator tone, by the way, Luke, welcome to the chat. There is something, we'll get into it more when we pull apart everything, but just the raw tone of this synth. I noticed I liked a lot of the presets as we kept going on. The first few weren't actually my favorite when I checked this out. That one to me is very beautiful. This is the one that I used in the song in the intro. If anything sounds like a Moog, this patch does, and of course we can get really low. Just earth-shaking quality, but we have no emphasis. I don't know how well you can see that number there, but as we crank emphasis, we will lose that bass, which is sort of the rub about these synths. Wow, you can really hear what a difference that made. Depends on what kind of sound you're going for. Losing that bass for me on a bassline synth is a bit of a problem, and it's also another reason why I've hesitated ever buying a Moog, because I like synths that pass a lot of lows, like the DW8000 and the DSS-1. Those low-pass filters let a lot of bass through, whereas with this, not so much unless you turn the resonance off. Here it sounds pretty amazing, so yeah. Let's see, is there any overdrive in the mix section? The Moog CP3 circuit from the OG5U is famous for its drive and warmth. Yes, there is. So we'll get into that a little bit more when we check out the oscillators individually, but they do overdrive past a certain point. I don't exactly know where. Yeah, this patch gave me a ASMR. Yeah, this one's pretty much like, it's that sound, right? It's the famous Moog sound. The rentals use the Moog Source a lot. Sam, welcome to the stream. I didn't know that. Alley Cat, welcome to the stream. I always thought the Source had a better low-pass filter tone than MG1 or Rogue. Yeah, so that's the thing about this, is because it is designed to replace the Minimoog, it really has, it has that sound. I really love this bass sound too. Amazing sort of sound to it, and we can do the same thing. Check out, it's got a little bit of emphasis on there, so Very throaty, really growly. Sort of warbly type of a pluck type legato thing. Really beautiful. Again, all of these patches just immediately show, wow, just like that, we're getting going. I use this one on the song, so this whistle lead is actually playing the filter, and that's awesome. You guys have seen, like, on the Korg MS-20 vintage video that we did, me struggle trying to get the keyboard tracking to work with the filter, so you can actually play the filter because it is fully self-resonant. Not a problem at all here. Let's see if we can find keyboard tracking. Where is that? I know it's around here somewhere. It's, if anybody sees it before I do, go ahead and put that in the chat. It is around, oh, there it is. So you got full, half, and off. So we can turn it off, and we should get the same note everywhere. We put it to half, and we get half of that, and go to on, and now we can play the keyboard, you know, great. And I was designing patches last night, and I found that with making patches, especially polyphonic stuff, I like to actually have keyboard tracking. Using the full was a little too much, but for something like this, where you have that fully cranked thing. So I just want to make this clear. Oscillator 1, the volume is off. Oscillator 2, the volume off, and we're just hearing only the noise going through. So even though it sounds melodic, we're not hearing a single oscillator. We're hearing the filter that is screaming, so, which is really, really cool. Mock Bikeman, welcome to the stream. My friend has one of these and has always hated the lack of knobs. It sounds fantastic, but the interface is so weird. I myself do not find it to be that difficult. It's very simple, and you know, there's a little bit to it that I'm still learning, but you know, it's pretty easy. You can see how quickly to figure everything out. I don't mind one membrane button per function synth. It's when you have to start entering in parameters that I start going crazy. Just a couple more patches to check out before we actually open the thing up and start to see what we can do. So, man, I mean, you could just play, so that's your lead sound, right? For any time as a keyboardist, if you need to go to a lead, just gorgeous. The thickness. And like, so let's say you're playing that and you want to have some control. You would just grab the cutoff here and I actually think it sounds really good, sort of acidy on this range. Yeah, sounds really throaty and growly. Yeah, it's really fat. Sounds like the Doom OST. A big fan right there of that guy. Forgot his name off the top of my head who did the soundtrack. By the way, guys, cheers. Gonna drink a little red wine, a little Cabernet. Ah, love box wine. So you can just lock the mod wheel in where you want it. It's got a nice sort of resistance. If you want a little of that warbly sort of lo-fi vinyl type sound. And like an original Minimoog, but not like the new $5,000 Model D reissue, this pitch knob does not spring back. It does have an indent here where it stays in place, but if you bring it down, it goes all the way down. Well, actually on this patch it seems like it's disabled, but it will stay down. Just sounds really, really gorgeous. Hey, Aquatic, how's it going, my friend? Love to see that little vulture skull next to your name. This and the Roland Alpha Juno belong together. Classic synth shrouded behind an odd wheel button-based interface. So this is much, much better than Alpha Juno. I have one sitting right to the right of the camera. So with an Alpha Juno, if you want to edit something, you need to find the parameter and enter it in and then enter the value. It's not fun. Actually, in the upcoming weeks, we're going to be doing a stream with the retroactive PG, the MPG 50, which is the programmer they've released for the Alpha Juno, which is amazing. But with this synth, and a synth like the Kwai K3, you really don't need it, because anything you might want to do, like say open up the cutoff, you can do it right here, and it's got this interesting little wheel. And it is in real time. And it's very smooth and buttery. Like, I can't sing the praises. I've had my hands on a lot of knobs over the years, and this is a very good one. So, yes, I love a good Malbec. We were doing that before. Some Behringer Knights Valley Cab Sauv right here. The alpha knob is horrible because you have to select the parameters with it. Yeah, the alpha dial is just not Roland's best idea they ever had, unfortunately. Hey, now, they were always kind of $5,000 Minimoogs. I mean, the price is in the build. Expensive, yes, but the thing does feel great. My thing about Minimoogs and Moogs in general is you are paying for the price, for sure. You are paying for the quality, but you are paying for the price in terms of features. People will get upset and they will say things like, the Moog 1 is the best value synth. You get all these VCOs in it, and it does come with a lot of VCOs, but they have always commanded a high price point, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with a company being like, hey, we're going to charge a lot. They make a lot of cool products like the Mavis, which is a lower end product that a lot of people can get into. And it's a really great company nowadays. It's a new company as compared to this company that went out of business in 1985, I believe. But, people, there'll always kind of be that debate around Moogs. But in my opinion, I'm excited always to get beginners to buy synthesizers and get into electronic music, and especially vintage synthesizers, because I think a lot of the times you can get something that satisfies that hardware synth itch a little bit more, because the sound is there with the vintage stuff. It's not always there with the modern stuff. I'm not talking about Moogs in particular here. I just mean synths in general. I think that obviously the quality on this is very, very good, but so it was with the Roland SH2 and the Korg MS-20, which you can usually get for at least $1,000 less than a usual Moog of this price range, and easily, you can get a lot of the times the SH series all the way for like $1,500. So what is that, like less than a fifth of the cost of a Model D? So in my opinion, it's better to have more people buying synths that are cool than necessarily spending money on expensive synths. However, if you love the sound of a Moog and nothing else will do, they do sound great, and this one does sound great. And that's why I'm featuring this synth, is because I think it's a really great price point. They're not crazy extreme prices on the vintage synth market to get one of these, and they sound very good. Workstat is very good. Workstat or Mavis for sure, but no way for the big one. Matriarch, I think, is an amazing synth aquatic. Slightly expensive for what you get, but it is, I think, a really great way to get that Moog sound, and the semi-modular nature of it is very cool. Yes. Yeah, this is, in all intents and purposes, this is a Minimoog with a Day-Glow paint job over the top of it. And it doesn't have the knobs. Some people need knobs. Yo, Luke, thank you for the $1. I appreciate that. There's a little comment over here. Enjoy going through the Moog Source with you. Nice to have you fun with it while casually discussing the features rather than getting overly technical with it. I do like getting technical sometimes, but I like keeping these live streams kind of fun and easy for everybody. So thank you very much. I appreciate that, Luke. I have a Boog. I actually don't know what that is. Is that the Behringer one? Also great. Really sounds amazing. So why don't we turn this into sort of like a basic patch? Put this all the way up. All the way up. Turn the release down. Cut off all the way up. Turn the emphasis off. So what I'm trying to do is actually just sort of return it to a basic init saw pad type sound. The interval knob controls the detuning of the oscillators. You'll see it's at 0. That doesn't necessarily mean they're in tune, though. I noticed 1 actually seems more in tune than 0. Yes, the Behringer stuff can be great. I talk about vintage synths mostly on this channel, but of course, when it comes to, if you had to talk about, like, what does a Behringer Model D go for? It's like nothing compared to even this. I think this is cool because it's a real vintage Moog that has that, it is the literal oscillators of a Minimoog and the filter, that famous filter. But the Model D sounds great from Behringer. So, as far as beginners go, that's probably the synth to do. And everything I'm doing on this synth, by the way, you could do on that Behringer Model D. So 1, for some reason, is more in tune than 0. You could tune this up, though. To a 5th, if you wanted to play 5th type riffs. Right? That's a thing you could do. But let's go all the way back down to 1, so we're just in tune. And then I'm going to actually turn oscillator 2 off. So now we're hearing just the sawtooth wave. Over here, it's at 50. Boo, Behringer. Oh, yes. Real quick, guys, can I get some thumbs up or thumbs down for Behringer? I'd like to know, because, I mean, I know my opinion on it, but, there's no Behringers in this room. But I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Like, you always see the videos talking shit or singing the praises of, but what do you guys think about Behringer? So if you guys could drop some thumbs up and thumbs down, that would be awesome. Less than 700 when it's on sale. Well, that's hard to beat that. They killed it with the Roland TB3 MO. Let's see. We do not speak their name here. Mine was $250. Got me back into collecting gear. Not ethical when it comes to intellectual property. If you want a great value, entry subtractive, get the Create. East Beast, yeah, that's a really good point. The East Beast, I recommended it in my video for this year for the modern synths, and I think the Create audio stuff's awesome. And that is, of course, always the unique point about Behringer is they copy synths, and they don't just copy them like a little bit, they copy them a lot of bit. And they've been sued over it, and they get sued over it quite a bit, and you know, that's a thing. So we got some thumbs up, some thumbs down, we got some sell emojis. I don't trust them so much, but holding out hope. I think it's cool to start into synths. Yeah, I mean, and I like something like what Quadic is saying, the DeepMind is good, I hear. So I don't recommend it because I did, I think, in a video 2 years ago, and then I just got walls of comments of people saying, hey, there's like build quality issues and the fan's really loud and it's just not what you want it to be. So that was a shame, and I just felt like even though I haven't personally had any experience with it, I just didn't want to recommend it anymore. Even though you get less polyphony, the Korg Minilog XD for me still sort of fits that price point better than the DeepMind 12 anyways. The Neutron seems really cool. See, that's the thing, is I'd rather see them do more stuff like the Neutron and less stuff like the UBXA. That's just me, though. Let's see. I mean, it's way better to get the clone and then 303 and the micro boutique Rolands. Yeah, well, that's the thing, too. I mean, one of the problems is companies like Roland won't put out analog gear anymore. So if you want an analog 303, first off, they're really expensive on the vintage market. So, you know, what are you going to do, right? Probably go Behringer. I think there's probably better 303 type synths. Again, the Create Audio comes to mind, East Beast. But I do understand why people would be drawn to that. Build quality issues are number one issue with Behringer. That said, I don't mind so much stuff like the 303 clones because the 303 wasn't exactly great either. Interesting. I'm just glad I got to hear some of your opinions here. So let's check this out. Let's see if this thing will distort as we push it into the filter. It definitely sounds like to me, I have my headphones on. Can you guys hear if that's, it sounds like it's overdriving above 50% or so. Like you're getting more bite and aggression. And not just volume, really you're getting a lot above 50%, which is great that you got that much room to really push into the filter there. Sounds really, really good. I ride Harleys. How's it going, my friend? Welcome to the stream. Been a bit since I've seen you. How have you been? Best 303 clone I've ever had and used is the MAM MB33. I actually don't know what that is, Mock. It's just the voice. Yeah, let me know. I saw a synth called Deep Bass 9 I'd never heard of from 94, I want to think. Rack mount 303-ish synth. Thought about buying it just for the name, to be honest. Cyclone, DynSync, Zoxbox, and AcidLab.de are all better than the TD3 for 303 remake. Well, I agree with that. I think those are all great options. It's a good point. I'm actually going to check out a Jupiter 6 this week, but it will be a members-only video. So if you guys aren't members of the channel yet, you can hit the join button below the channel. For the cost of a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you can help support me on my crazy mission to check out underrated, really great vintage synthesizer. So I appreciate that very much. You guys are the shit. Thank you for being amazing and hanging out with me every week. I appreciate it. So we have a few different wave shapes. We could also go to triangle here. And the triangle sounds amazing. A little vibrato, always with triangles, helps. And of course, way down low. that is rocking the cones in my headphones. Really deep rockin' sound, and let's see how it sounds if we distort it, if we get a little bit more bite to it, or what. Interestingly, with the triangle wave, I'm not getting as many high harmonics, I'm just getting more bass from it, which is cool. Cut my teeth on the Rebirth RB338. Sounds pretty good. Haven't checked that one out myself. Saw a video of some pretty good synth music made on an old PS1. I would love to hear that video. I love music from that era. Akira Yamaoka, one of my biggest influences, just an incredible composer. Anyways, we also have this square wave here. And we do have pulse width control over that. Interestingly, it can go positive or negative. So at 50, it's a full square wave. Interesting, you get different sorts of tones. And just like an original Minimoog, we cannot create pulse width modulation within the synth as it is. I believe there are mods for that, or maybe even ways that we could, run something in to control it. But for right now, like an original Minimoog, you can't create pulse width modulation, or like the Korg MS-20 for that matter. But it sounds really good. So if we go back to oscillator 1, we can turn the volume up. And we're definitely getting those harmonics. Let's check out the harmonics down low. Really, really thick harmonics on that. Sounds very good. I mean, it's amazing how much clarity there is in the sound. So going back to what I was saying about the oscillators, like just listening to the saw, it's amazing. The one thing I will say about the Moog Source for the time I've had it is, I hear a lot of sawtooths, and there's something about an even frequency distribution where you've got the highs, you've got the mids, you've got the high mids so that you get a little bit of bite, that clarity. You've got the low mid so it doesn't sound hollow, and you've got the low end so you've got that subwoofer rattle. And just the raw oscillators might be the best. I wish I still had the Korg Prologue in here, because it actually has a very similar oscillator tone in my opinion. And it just gets nasty as you crank that up. So we've checked out now the wave shapes here. We can sync these oscillators. And so I believe if we go to oscillator 2 and we change the pitch here. So, by the way, actually, I can talk about this. We can change the pitch. So this is our highest hypothetical note, and we can go all the way down to here. Depending on what you want to do. I wonder if they can make a breakout box for the Source. I'm sure I've seen that there is stuff to allow you to do like PWM or something with it. But we can sync these if we want to do that type of thing, and I believe that we could do a little bit of control over that, although I'm looking to see where the way we would be able to actually do like a little pitch mod or something to it. Well, we'll worry about that later. It's not immediately apparent that we need to do that. So we can turn this second oscillator on. Or actually, let's turn oscillator 1 off and turn the noise on real quick. I saw this on another video about the source that pointed this out. It's actually a loop of, like, I believe it's a PCM sample of noise, and you can hear it sort of restart. So it's not a true analog noise source for those who care about that type of thing. Yeah, that definitely has a low end. The Dreadbox stuff has incredible fundamentals. How nasty can you get without knobs? Can you add N to X dirty? That's the thing I don't like so much about the button controls when using the synth standalone. Well, I mean, it depends. We'll see. I'm going to go through it, and I do not have a lot of patience, so if it starts to get in my way, I'll be the first to tell you what I don't like about it. And so this noise source would be a thing that is either a thing of character or something you hate because you have to deal with that cycle in there and there's nothing you can really do about it. So let's turn the noise down. And oscillators 1 and 2 up. And then let's change the tuning, or I suppose let's try syncing 2 to 1, right? We'll turn 2 down. We'll turn the interval and we'll bend it up. So actually I have to... There we go. We're getting that sync sound. I guess you have to have the oscillator up. So if you want to get a little bit more of that funky nastiness in there, that's how you can do it, is by hard syncing oscillator 2 to 1. Versus if I turned it off, you could hear that we're like an out of tune mess, but back on. Really great sync type sound. Let's turn sync off and bring this down to 1 again. One thing is this knob is so smooth that to get all the way down to 1 actually takes a few seconds. And you really do appreciate the voltage-controlled nature of this, having checked out both VCO synths and DCO synths, love them both. But, you know, there's something nice about the way that the oscillators are not in perfect tune ever. The phase is still taking a sinusoidal sort of shape to it, but it's not perfect though, which is great. I appreciate that about the synth. Just want to mention too, if you're coming to the stream now, we're going to be checking out the Akai AX60 soon. We're going to be checking out the retroactive MPG 50 for the Alpha Juno 2 soon. I've got a how to program a Roland D50 video that is done and edited. I'm just doing the color grading. That'll be uploaded soon. And then we will be doing some sound design streams on the D50. So if you're into vintage synthesizers, this is your new home. As long as you are Scum. That is the important thing. I don't want anybody in here who thinks they're better than anybody else. So why don't we move this over to a square wave and adjust the pulse width. And we'll set the sawtooth all the way down. And I'm going to dial the volume on that back because it's a little biting. So that's just a way to get a little bit more harmonics into the sound, so as we check out the filter, we can really hear how it affects that juicy high end. Looking for screams and growls. I know you can do it, but a pain to get there without twisting and playing those knobs. I don't think so. So we're going to check that out right now, Mock. D50 is my favorite digital synth. Well, I have been on a journey to master the Roland D50 to become a true D50 samurai. And although I do not feel the journey is complete, I do think that I know a bit. The video took 11 hours of shooting, as well as 4,353 edits. So it is the hardest, biggest undertaking I've ever done on this channel. It'll be a 3-hour masterclass on how to program a D50, whether you use a PG-1000, a iPad with controller editor on it or patch base. You can actually do it directly from the keyboard. But then you're doing that parameter hunting. Works with the DO5, works with the Roland Cloud, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to do streams on sound design where we actually go through everything and I show you how it's done. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Really exciting about that. It's talking to you, Buchla people. Yes. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. I'm really excited for that. So definitely look out for that. It will be in the next couple of weeks. It'll be going up. So let's check out the filter. So let's do a nice filter sweep down low. Oh, this is interesting. I see the contour mounts up all the way. Let's turn that all the way off and then go back to the cutoff. So you can hear how incredibly smooth that control is. I actually wish it could be a little bit faster because it takes a while to get there. But that's a good example of this is not MIDI, right? So that 128 steps, you don't have that problem at all. It's incredibly smooth. Let's crank the emphasis to 50. Emphasis is just Moog speak for resonance, and try that again. Really incredible vowely sort of talking filter sounds. Kind of reminds me of that sort of chirpy waveriness that you get from the old Oberheim stuff as well. Why don't we take this second to take both of these oscillators up to full volume. I'm going to put this back to a sawtooth and crank the shit out of it so we can hear that exact same cutoff and resonance, but with the filter being overdriven because Mock wants to check out some nastiness. Pretty crazy. So let's just crank the emphasis all the way up. So you'll notice a lot of the knobs, there's not that many values, and that's really nice because you can get through them quickly. The cutoff, they were like, we're going to put like 10,000 fucking values into this so it's perfectly smooth, which I appreciate them doing. So this is full resonance. Watch your ears. Plenty of bass down there actually with the resonance cranked. It's just because that frequency is so low. Really, really crazy. So if we add some contour amount here and bring the sustain on the filter all the way down, we should be able to actually hear it, and we'll increase the attack and decay to maximum values just to see what happens. So it should rise and then fall. Let's see what that's like. We'll start all the way down at the lowest possible number, 0 there. So it actually does the filter sweep faster than my finger could, Michael. Sounds really great. But I do think the emphasis is best somewhere between like 75. So let's try that again, just with 75 this time. So just, you know, that more talky type thing. Let's try it at 50. So what I've noticed in my sort of naivete is I quite like the value 0 if I want a really bassy tone. Like, if you're not listening with subwoofers, you will not hear how insanely monstrous that is. And then I actually like above 50, but less than 80, somewhere in here, you know, like 70-ish, for if you want to go for that resonance sound. Above that, and it starts to get a little piercing, but here it gets really kind of vowely and nice. To me, it just sort of has that, again, that just like famous growl sound that is so gorgeous and I love to hear. So we've already kind of covered quickly, actually, the contour here. That's just Moog speak for envelopes, but they're here. And they're very easy to edit. So like this, now we have just all decay. Sounds really good. Let's detune the oscillator by a couple. It doesn't take much. And that becomes that much more, you know, famous sort of detune sound. But yeah, just really great. And again, you can get through editing here very quickly. Almost like an Alpha Juno Hoover type sound. I mean, really great right out of the gate, and that's a big part of what's going on with the synth. So that covers the oscillators and the filter, the loudness contours and stuff. You already know what that stuff does. Let's see what else there is. We've got different trigger modes, so let's try single here and see if there's a difference. You can hear that what's going on is, I think if I hit multi every time I hit a note with portamento, it will re-trigger the envelope. Right? Versus this, where it'll just stay lower. You can hear there's a little bit of tuning. Tuning issues. So one thing I noticed is, I don't know if I need to go take this in and get calibrated, but they actually made this synth to run a lot hotter. I can feel the heat, so that the tuning's more stable than a Minimoog. So Minimoogs are famous for going out of tune, and even the Behringer Model D will go out of tune pretty much as badly as a Minimoog. This guy has been keeping its tune miraculously well while still having that voltage-controlled oscillator drift. It holds its tone or its tune very well, but what I will say is the scaling across the key bed. Like when we're listening to this by ourselves here, God, that's fucking nasty. When we're listening to this, it doesn't sound that bad versus... Sounds pretty good. Hey, Lemon. How's it going? You want to say hi to everybody on the stream? Come over here, girl. Don't rip out the cable. Hey. You can say hi to everybody? Oh, that's my cat, Lemon. Here we go. Hi, Lemon. Good girl. You see the big blue eye that she has. She's blind. But it doesn't stop her. She's very inquisitive, loves coming and hanging out with me in the synth room when I'm working. It's chaos in here, but that doesn't stop anything. Good girl, Lemon. You said hi to everybody on the stream. Can we get some lemons in the chat here? We do have a lemon emoji in the chat with her missing eyeball. It's so cute. Where was I? Yeah, so I actually, when I was recording with this for the song that I did in the intro, I just left a tuner up on the screen so that I could make sure whatever octave range I was in was pretty much in tune, because if the bass was in tune, a lead wouldn't be. Lemon, what are you doing over there? What is it, Lemon? Hi. All right. Maybe be kind of good, okay? You're wild. So that's just a thing I noticed while I was recording. Love all of the lemons in the chat. Cats and synthesizers go hand in hand, just like fake plants. Sounds really great. We could go back to increment control and get this more in tune. So we have a LFO. The LFO could be routed to the oscillator. And I believe we can control the rate now, so the mod is always affecting that. Which is cool. But let's turn that off, and let's turn it on to the filter mod. It's interesting because I'm used to thinking of as a mod wheel as being kind of like an expressive thing, and in some sense it still is. But on this synth, it's also effectively another knob or potentiometer, because it is the amount or LFO depth for where you route it. So you can route it to the filter and the oscillator, I believe. Yeah. But what's more interesting is filter mod. So why don't we increase the depth there, or the rate, and so we can take it into crazy FM territory. We're already approaching audio range at 60 of 99 values. Let's try with some more resonance. Let's bring the contour mount down. Wow, that sounds really great up there. It's very cyberpunk. If I turn the decay off so we're only hearing that amount, we're just getting the sustain here, we can get some really crazy sort of FM stuff. Wow, that is crazy. Let's go all the way down. I would just like to point out that I'm controlling the filter contour sustain level here. getting really awesome cyberpunk talking vowels. Really awesome, and hopefully nasty enough for Mr. Bikeman over there. A up, D low, S up, R mid. I want to hear that in the patch. Can you do that? So attack all the way up. I'm going to make it a little slower than that. Yeah, we'll do that. And then D low, so that's all the way down. Sustain all the way up. And then R mid. So I'm going to control the contour amount here. Make that interval more nasty. Really great. Is the LFO synced to the filter? Well, it's modulating the filter. I don't know if I want to say that's synced, because sync obviously is like syncing to oscillator, so I don't know technically if it's synced to the filter, but it is modulating the filter. That's how you're getting those incredibly dark, awesome, crazy nasty filter FM stuff, which I don't know exactly how possible. I mean, it's pretty awesome, right? So I don't have a Minimoog to compare, but when I was reading about the specs, that was something that people were talking about that was awesome about this synth. So I don't know if it's possible to do that with a typical Minimoog. So anyways, let's turn the filter mod off. Get it a little more in tune. And contour amount all the way up. We'll turn the attack down. So trigger modes are basically different modes, like whether you want legato or not. Yeah, you could do some really great stuff. Autumn, have a wonderful night. I love you so much. Have a great one. Thank you for your continuous support. You are an amazing friend and an even better kickboxer. So, we've basically covered most of what's going on up here. Let's go along to level 2. So let's go ahead and see what's going on with the sequencer. So if I hit level 2 and then play, let's see what happens. Now, I haven't touched any of the level 2 stuff yet, so bear with me if it takes me a bit. Okay, so I think when you hit level 2, you need to... So let's go back to that, and then level 2 and press play 2 and see what happens. Interesting. So I appreciate that very much, Mock. If that's level 2, what happens when you turn it to 11? So these are sort of like the other like deeper functions in here. So we do have an arpeggiator. So why don't we check that out real quick? Level 2 arpeggio. Sounded like some duophonic stuff in there. I don't know what's going on with that. We got sample and hold. Wow, you can get immediate sort of EBM out of that. That's pretty cool. Let's see, sample and hold to the filter. Try auto trigger. I guess that's like latch. We can save, verify, and load off a cassette. Anyways, let's try recording a sequence real quick with this patch. So let's try something like that. So record 1. Stop, and then play 1, see what happens. Cool. So I guess I needed to have timed the end for it to loop correctly. So let's try that again. Let's try level 2, record 1, and go. And then see if that worked. I don't think it did. So hopefully, I think I don't have to press level 2 again. So let's go back to this sound. We'll use this one because it's fucking nasty. And we'll try recording this again. So... and then try playing that and see if it looped properly. God damn it. Alright, level 2, record 1. So you do have to hit level 2. That's frustrating. Alright, so we'll... like this EBM type sound here, so let's try it again. So recording. Oh fuck, I fucked it up. Let's try again. Then try again. Why is that not working? Yeah, it's like, how do you... Alright. God damn it. Let's see if I can do it with one hand. That might be the only way I know how to do it. So, record. Didn't play it that well, but at least I was able to get it to loop. So yeah, it's almost like you kind of need to use one hand because you have to hit that level 2 button, which is a bit of a shame. A little frustrating. That would sound really good with a phaser. Yeah, that would. I have down there some new phaser pedals. I have some... So that's another thing we're going to be doing on the channel soon, is checking out synthesizers with vintage guitar pedals. So I have a small Stone down there, and a Boss PH2, I want to say. And so we're going to be checking out, those are just the phasers, but how some of these vintage synth sounds through those guys. That's going to be a really fun stream I'm looking forward to as well. So you can control the, you know, like things like the cutoff live. So sorry about the really, you know, weak playing there, but that's the thing. Why does the cutoff get crackly? That was the volume knob got crackly. Which just means it needs to be cleaned, but that's a very common thing. And I only brought the volume down because the synth is sidechained to my microphone, so if I'm speaking while the synth is going, it ducks my voice out of the way. So I just wanted you guys to hear what I was saying real quick. Deox it, yeah, real easy. Alright, so let's see, record again, and... Alright, I think I got it kind of in time there. Let's see what happens. So you can see the octave button doesn't do anything here. Wow. So yeah, that is the sequencer. Really cool that you could do real-time control over whatever you want over that sound while it's playing. So yeah, I mean, nowadays, would you really use the sequencer? Probably not, but it's maybe something you could use as a way to sort of jam an idea. This synth came out before MIDI existed. But it does have a sync in, like a way to control it, which is some sort of like weird thing I've never seen before. I think I've never seen it before. It looks like MIDI, but it's sequencer sync in, and there's a reset in too. So I don't know what that is exactly, but it's there. And so I'm sure someone makes a MIDI to whatever that connection is kit. So you could run this thing with MIDI. So that'd be a kind of cool way to deal with it. So the unit my friend has resonance and cutoff knobs. Guess that was a mod. Never thought much of it till I saw this. I mean, here's the thing. I guess like you could use that, but you know, I want to emphasize to everybody out there. I've got, you know, 100%, I don't know if you can see it behind me, the Poly 6 behind me, like plenty of synths that are one knob per function. And I have synths that are, you know, horrible interfaces like the Wave Station. And this would fit in a very good interface place. I mean, maybe if I had a Minimoog here and you could just change the knobs real quick, I'd be like, well, that is better. Sure. But it's really like most of the time when you're programming something, you go, okay, I want to change the decay. So you just change that. I want to change the attack. You know, change the sustain. Change the release. Change the detune. You know, add a little bit to the you know, add a little of that, a little bit more attack. You know, you can program very fast. You know, it's really not a problem, in my opinion. I think for some people, you know, they're just afraid of these. But I think you have to decide with every single synthesizer. I've said this before. People don't always like it when I talk about value as opposed to just how the synth sounds, like if everybody could afford it. Like, I make money off of music. I make money off of YouTube. I don't recommend that people spend crazy amounts of money on gear up front until they're making money, because there are really cool synths out there that you can get. And I think this is one of them where it's, you know, expensive, but it's not as expensive as it could be. And if you really want that vintage Moog sound and you have that serial killer itch and nothing but the authentic sound will do, and you're okay with the compromise of not having every single knob right there, well, you can get one of these with patch programming and a bunch of other features for at least a quarter of the price of a vintage Minimoog Model D. So that's pretty amazing. And that's always what I look to talk about on this channel, are really great value buys. And value doesn't mean cheap, right? This is one of the most expensive synths I have in the room. What value to me means is that it, like, for me, something is not value unless it completely satisfies me in terms of sound, because that's what I really care about, is sound. Now, sometimes a synth is so obtuse to program, like the Alpha Juno, like the Corgam one, that you just go, okay, I can't program it. And now I'm not satisfied anymore because I want to make my own sounds, right? But this synth, I feel like I can program it very quickly. I had that same experience with the Kawai K3, where I was like, the fact that you have one good knob, you know, as opposed to 30 knobs, it's not a problem. Like, it, for me anyways, because I feel like I can make my own sounds and come up with a lot of really cool stuff with this. And it has that true vintage Minimoog sound. And that's what you're paying for most of the time when it comes to synthesizers, is I want that sound, right? And this is it. Now, in as far as like something like a Behringer Model D would be like the polar opposite of this synth, that's the same thing, in the sense that, if this sentence makes sense, that this is a vintage Moog from back in the day, so it's going to cost a lot of money. A Behringer Model D, brand new, not a Moog, not going to cost a lot of money, but essentially the same architecture, more or less. If knobs are more important to you, you should definitely get one of those, and they sound great. With everybody's comments about the ethics of that company aside for a split second, I think that that's like the opposite. But if you do care about the ethics of the company, or you just want that true vintage Moog sound, like nothing else will compare, and in my opinion, not even like the modern Moog stuff, because there is a difference between the company that was Moog in 85 and the company that is Moog now. And I love both companies. I'm not saying that the new one, I think the Moog Matriarch, for instance, really awesome sounding, beautiful synth. Is it the vintage Moog sound, though? In my opinion, probably not. It's kind of a new thing. Same thing with Mavis, Workstat, all of that stuff. I love all of that stuff. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's really cool that for a synthesizer that usually costs about $10K, that you can get, in some ways, a superior synth in terms of programmability and a few other features. And then in some ways, it's not one knob per function like the original Model D. So that's part of it. But that's part of the calculus with every synthesizer buy. There's no such thing as a synth that does everything 100% whatever. I always make the joke that if value didn't matter, we should all just buy Moog ones and then be done with it. But the funny thing is that there's a lot of people who don't like the Moog ones or say they have build quality issues, the fan's really loud, the firmware's fucked up, So those are all things to consider. So sorry, I'll get off my high horse for a second, but I do think it's important to talk about this sort of stuff. I love twiddling knobs too, Mock. I get it. Lyndon Hudson co-wrote a Limiter album by ZZ Top with the Moog Source. Yes, I did hear that it's the bass in the Eliminator album is all a Moog Source, and an Oberheim DMX for drums. Hudson never got an album credit for it, though. That's very, very interesting, Michael, and I appreciate you. I didn't know who actually did it, though. The most valuable synth to me is the Novation Bass Station 2. Very good synth. I've thought about buying a Bass Station 1, actually. I just love it dearly because it's got the sound and it's got the functionality. I totally get it. Fossil Crab, welcome to the stream. The Alicia Micron. I don't know that one. Cheapest in my arsenal, but damn, once you learn it. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is a lot of the times you don't need to spend crazy amounts of money to have a really great synthesizer. And in my opinion, this synth is one of those, And so I'm pulling up the music here because I feel like we've done a good job sort of introducing you guys to this. If you want me to do more with this synthesizer, I'd be happy to. Maybe go into some deeper stuff. If you guys are watching this in the future, that is, you're watching this live stream, but not live, then please comment below if there's anything I missed, anything interesting I should hit in the future. My overall impressions of the synth, you're hearing it in the song in the background, by the way, is that it sounds really great. And, I think always my recommendation would be if you want a Moog, a vintage Moog, let's say, not a modern Moog. If you want a vintage Moog, you just need to prepare yourself that you're going to be paying for the name, for what you get. I think most of the time you can get synthesizers from other brands that are superior in terms of specs, feature sets, and things like that. But this synth in particular really, really impressed me, and it made me rethink what I've thought about Moog and sort of my embargo against letting a Moog into this room. It really, I love the paint job, by the way. I mean, just this aesthetically, to me, this is the most Miami Vice synth I have, and to me, that's beautiful. I understand, though, why people want a mini Moog just in terms of aesthetics. This is not for everybody. I'm named after Jan Hammer, so there's definitely a relationship I have with that type of sound and synth. But for me, I think this is a really great thing, and I I've noticed with like Kawai K3s, for instance, the price has skyrocketed on these synths since I've been doing streams on them. You used to be able to get Kawai K3s like within the last year for $300, $350. Now they're all like $1,000, and I'm like, oh God, I hope I didn't contribute to that. I don't think I did. I think it's just they're rare. This is another rare synth, and to me, going back to what I was ranting about Satisfaction, you know, this thing scratches every itch I have for a vintage Moog sound. I think if I had gotten a Prodigy or a Rogue or a few of the other ones, I might have like had that little part of my head that's like, maybe it's not right because it doesn't quite go all the way there or something. But for me, this gives you that Minimoog thing. It's an authentic Minimoog. It really is. Under the hood, it is a Minimoog. But it's just got this crazy exterior, and I love this increment control. I think it feels great. It's fun to play. You can program it very quickly. I think it's a great buy if you can get one still reasonably cheap. They are expensive because they're Moogs, but it is by far the cheapest, most affordable way to get that authentic vintage Moog sound. Now, if you don't care about that and you just want something that sounds like a Minimoog and programs like a Minimoog, and you don't care about the ethics, then Behringer would be the company, of course. And then there's other companies, like another option. If you don't want to buy from Behringer, Roland actually collaborated with Studio Electronics and created the SEO2, which is basically a studio electronics. That company started by doing Minimoog parts and made like a crazy awesome Minimoog clone. And you can usually get those for about, they used to be $400. I don't know if they're more expensive now. Everything seems to have gone up in price because of inflation. But that's another really great option if you want like a modern alternative. But if you do care about Moog and you care about that vintage quality, I think this is probably the best way you could spend your money on the market. I'd love to hear from some Prodigy and Rogue and what are some of the other ones from that era owners. I'd love to hear how those synths stack up, because they usually are like this, but they're missing something here or there. So those are my opinions there. Oh, that was an Alesis fossil crab. Let's see. Micron has like 4 knobs. I'm glad you stumbled upon it too, Mock. I hope you come back. We do a stream like this every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. That is, it might be different in your time zone, but we're always checking out synths. We're going to be looking at the Akai AX60 soon. We're going to be looking at the Alpha Juno 2 with a retroactive MPG 50 programmer. Like I said, soon there will be an uploaded 3-hour masterclass on programming the Roland D50, so I'm excited about that. I want a memory Moog, but I'll never have one, but I want one. I understand. Hey, Pinto! Yes, you are a little bit late, but you are always on time, my friend. How are you doing? It's good to see you. We're just kind of wrapping up this stream, but this synth does look like cocaine in the 80s, and I appreciate that. I want Moografugers to come back. Yeah, for sure. Studio Electronics would definitely be the thing. That's going to be a lot of fun. Bad Lux, how's it going? I want so much gear right now, I might go for broke. Well, and again, that's why I talk about value so much, is because, in my opinion, people can spend so much money on synthesizers. And, you know, especially beginners, we all forget how many costs there are into starting this hobby. Because someone who wants to get into making electronic music, we think in terms of how much does this synth cost? Because, you know, we've got the stuff. We've got this stand costs $200. The cables, the fucking audio interface, all that stuff that goes into it. You know, when it comes to that, you know, numbers matter. And I don't want beginners to get turned off by all of the vintage synth and hardware synth gatekeepers. I want people to know that although this synth is really cool and sounds good, you can make sounds like this with, you know, software synths too, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Moog puts out a Model D VST, and that's really worth doing. Probably the best, I want to say Softtube puts out something. That would probably be my recommendation if you just want that Minimoog sound. Softtube's Model D is probably the way to go. Their stuff sounds amazing. Yeah, my favorite synths are the cheaper ones too. I don't love synths that cost so much. Like I said, if you're not a member yet, join the channel. It helps me out a lot. It's a good way to show me that you appreciate what I'm doing. I'm going to be checking out a Jupiter 6 soon, and that's going to be really cool. Members only video. But the thing is, I hesitate. I don't think I want to buy one, even though, like, technically I can afford it. It's like, well, that's not that much fun. Of course the Jupiter 6 is going to sound great. It's a Jupiter, right? But, you know, fuck, if you're going to spend $6,000 on something, it better sound good. That's not exciting to me. What's exciting to me are finding synthesizers, vintage synthesizers in particular, just for me, that I think are really underrated and powerful and sound great and are beautiful pieces of history that time's somewhat forgotten. So I'm always a fan of showing off synths that are a little bit less than the showiest ones out there. I'm not a collector. I'm not interested in having the best synthesizers, but I do like having really cool synths. And so this to me is a very cool synth because it does have that value. It has that authentic Minimoog sound. I'm probably rambling at this point, but I'm just, you know, passionate about this shit, you know. Let's see. Less scared to open up and mess with. Start shopping around for effects pedal. Fuck my life, down another rabbit hole I go. I'm down the same rabbit hole. We're gonna do some streams with vintage guitar pedals and vintage synths soon. That'll be fun. Keystep and a module like a Boog or an East Beast, and you're 90% of the way there. Add a Zoom CDR, and you got more sound that you could ever fully explore. Another great stream. I appreciate you saying that, Dub. You are awesome. I appreciate your continued support, my friend. I appreciate everybody out there who shows up to Scum Night every week and makes this part of our lives. It has been so much fun to get to explore these synths with you guys and to have this wonderful community of people who all seem to be awesome, you know? YouTube is like famous for being a toxic place, but I have to say my experience here has been nothing short of amazing. But there's such a great community of people who come and hang out on this stream every week, and so I consider myself very grateful. With that, I think it is time for me to shut my pie hole. Next week, we'll be checking out either the AX60 or the Alpha Juno with an MPG 50 from Retroactive. I'm not sure yet. We'll get there. We're going to be doing some stuff with the Korg MS-20. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. So if you haven't yet, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Love and light, bitches. I am out.